Chapter 3094 begins with Catherine's curiosity about a mysterious set of photos scattered in matriarch Farrell's study. Despite her curiosity, she leaves Erika to face the situation alone as she senses that something serious is about to unfold. Erika, feeling a sense of dread but resigned to her fate, enters the study. As she steps inside, she notices the scattered photos on the floor and her mother in law, matriarch Farrell, sitting behind her desk, eating candied haws, a moment of unexpected casualness that contrasts sharply with the gravity of the situation. Matriarch Farrell, still unfazed by Erica's presence, calmly instructs her to pick up the photos on the floor. As Erica bends down to gather the photos, she tries not to look at their content. However, as she collects them, she cannot avoid seeing what the images depict. What she sees instantly fills her with shock and rage. Pictures of her husband Marco in compromising situations with Shiloh, the disgraced woman who had once been part of the Farrell family but had been cast out after a scandal. The betrayal stings, especially hard because Shiloh had once been her sister in law, making the affair feel all the more personal and hurtful. Unable to contain her fury, Erica throws the photos onto Matriarch Farrell's desk and, through tears, expresses her disbelief and pain. She accuses Shiloh of seducing Marco and laments her husband's infidelity. She recalls that after Shiloh was kicked out of the family, she had assumed Marco would come to his senses and end his affairs. She had been willing to forgive his previous indiscretions as long as he returned to their family and provided stability for their children. For her, maintaining her role as the eldest mistress of the Farrell family and preserving her children's well being was more important than seeking retribution through divorce. She had previously used the threat of divorce as a way to push Marco to end his affairs. But her primary focus was always on keeping the family intact, especially during their children's formative years. Now, however, she is devastated to discover that Marco has continued his extramarital activities, and with none other than Shiloh, a woman with whom the family had a complicated and bitter history. Her pain is compounded by the fact that Marco and Shiloh were once close as siblings, and despite the revelation that Shiloh was not biologically related to the Farrell family, Marco and his brothers had continued to treat her with affection. She had always felt uncomfortable with Marco's fondness for Shiloh, but she had convinced herself that it was simply the residual bond of 20 years of sibling like affection. Still, she now wonders if there had been something more between them all along. As she vents her anger and sorrow, Matriarch Farrell remains calm but stern. She chastises Erica for being unaware of her husband's actions and for failing to keep a closer eye on him. Matriarch Farrell's critique reflects her long held belief that a woman's primary role in the Farrell family is to maintain the household, support her husband, and raise the children. She expresses disappointment that Erica had not been more vigilant, despite Marco's efforts to keep her at arm's length from his work and private affairs. She feels a mix of guilt, frustration, and helplessness. She explains that Marco had insisted she not interfere with his work, dismissing her concerns and telling her that her presence in the company would be disruptive. She had complied, focusing instead on her children and her role as a homemaker. In her mind, her lack of involvement in his affairs was justified by the family's traditional expectations. Yet now, faced with the harsh reality of his betrayal, she wonders if her passive approach was a mistake. Despite her fury at Marco, she directs much of her blame towards Shiloh. She views Shiloh as the instigator, believing that she seduced Marco and exploited his lingering feelings of affection. She recalls that Shiloh had once pursued young Master Queen and speculates that her involvement with Marco may be a continuation of her attempts to manipulate and control powerful men. She is enraged that Shiloh, despite her banishment from the family, still manages to cause turmoil within the Farrell household. The chapter ends with Erika in a state of emotional upheaval, torn between her desire to protect her family and her feelings of betrayal.